Have you ever wondered if faith and science can find a harmonious balance? Today we explore an intriguing concept that marries these two seemingly disparate worlds: theistic evolution. This perspective is not a mere amalgamation of scientific theory and religious belief, but rather an intellectual and spiritual journey that seeks to find common ground. It's a quest to understand how the divinely inspired creation story of religions can coexist with the rigorous empirical evidence of evolution. The aim of this video is not to convince, but to enlighten, to stimulate thought and spark curiosity. We seek to delve into the heart of theistic evolution, dissect its core premises, and understand how it contrasts with other beliefs. We will explore its theological foundations, the scientific evidence that supports evolution, and how this evidence is interpreted through the lens of theistic evolution. Join us on this enlightening journey as we delve into the fascinating world of theistic evolution. Theistic evolution, a term you may or may not be familiar with, carries profound implications for both faith and science. It's a perspective that seeks to reconcile religious belief and evolutionary biology, asserting that the two are not mutually exclusive, but rather complement each other in a harmonious blend of faith and reason. So what exactly is theistic evolution? At its core, it's the belief that God created the universe and life within it, but not in the literal six-day time frame, as per certain interpretations of religious texts. Rather, theistic evolutionists believe that God used the process of evolution as a tool to bring about life's complexity over billions of years. In essence, they argue that God is the author of the evolutionary process. This perspective stands in contrast to atheistic evolution, where evolution is viewed as an entirely natural process, with no divine intervention or guidance. Atheistic evolutionists argue that life's complexity arose through natural selection and random mutation, without any need for a divine creator. On the other side of the spectrum, we have young Earth creationism. Young Earth creationists hold a literal interpretation of religious texts, believing that the universe, Earth, and all life were created by God in 6 literal days a few thousand years ago. They reject the evidence for an old Earth and for biological evolution. Theistic evolution, then, sits in the middle of these two extremes. It acknowledges the scientific evidence for an old Earth and for evolution, but also maintains a belief in a God who creates through evolution. It sees no contradiction between accepting the evidence for evolution and maintaining faith in a divine creator. In essence, theistic evolution offers a compelling reconciliation of faith and scientific understanding. It's a perspective that allows one to marvel at the complexity of life, to appreciate the grandeur of the cosmos, and to acknowledge the divine hand behind it all. The theological underpinnings of theistic evolution are deeply rooted in biblical interpretations. To understand these foundations, let's first remind ourselves of the core premise of theistic evolution. At its heart, this perspective holds that faith and science need not be at odds. Rather, it suggests that the process of evolution is a tool used by a divine creator to bring about the diversity of life we see on our planet. Let's dive a little deeper. Theistic evolutionists often interpret the Genesis creation account metaphorically rather than literally. They view the 7 days of creation not as literal 24-hour periods, but as symbolic of the idea that God is the originator and sustainer of all life. In this view, the "let there be light" moment in Genesis could be seen as the Big Bang, the birth of the universe itself. The subsequent creation events might represent key evolutionary milestones overseen and guided by a divine hand. The concept of God as the creator and sustainer of life is central to theistic evolution. It maintains that God is intimately involved in the process of evolution, not as a tinkerer who adjusts and interferes, but as a grand designer who set up the initial conditions and natural laws that guide the evolutionary process. Theistic evolution also contends with the problem of evil and suffering in the natural world, a common sticking point in theological discussions. It posits that the process of natural selection, while it can lead to suffering, also leads to greater complexity and diversity, which are seen as inherently good. Moreover, theistic evolutionists often argue that the capacity for love, morality, and rational thought in humans could not have evolved by natural processes alone, but required some form of divine intervention. Thus, theistic evolution provides a theological framework that aligns with both the Bible and modern science. This perspective allows believers to maintain their faith while also embracing the robust findings of evolutionary biology. It's a fascinating blend of ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science, offering a harmonious bridge between faith and reason. The scientific evidence supporting evolution is extensive and compelling. At the heart of this evidence is the fossil record, a veritable time capsule of life's history on Earth. It reveals an unbroken chain of existence, from the simplest single-celled organisms to the dazzling complexity of modern life forms. Yet the fossil record is just one piece of the puzzle. Genetic studies provide another. They reveal a shared genetic language among all living things, a testament to our common ancestry. This genetic code is like a book, where each species is a chapter, each individual a sentence, and each gene a word. In the grand narrative of life, we see species evolving, adapting, and diverging over millions of years. Now, through the lens of theistic evolution, this scientific evidence is not a challenge to faith, but rather a testament to the divine. It is seen as a reflection of God's ongoing creativity, a divine process set in motion at the dawn of time. Theistic evolutionists view evolution not as a random, purposeless process, but as a divine mechanism, a tool used by God to create the diversity of life we see today. Genetic mutations and natural selection, instead of being viewed as purely mechanistic processes, are seen as part of God's creative strategy. They are the methods through which God brings about new species, adaptation, and diversity in the natural world. In this view, the beauty of evolution is not that it happens in spite of God, but because of God. The intricacies of the natural world, the diversity of life, the grandeur of the cosmos, all are viewed as expressions of God's creativity and love. Therefore, theistic evolution is a harmonious blend of faith and science. It acknowledges the robustness of scientific evidence while interpreting it within a framework of divine purpose and creativity. As we can see, theistic evolution embraces scientific discoveries while maintaining a deep reverence for a divine creator. Like any perspective on faith and science, theistic evolution has its share of misconceptions and critiques. One common misconception is that theistic evolution is simply a compromise between religious faith and scientific evidence. This couldn't be further from the truth. Theistic evolution is not a half-hearted attempt to reconcile two opposing views. Rather, it's a thoughtful perspective that recognizes the potential for religious faith and scientific understanding to exist in harmony. Another misconception is that theistic evolution denies the existence of miracles or divine intervention. Not so. Theistic evolution does not deny God's ability to intervene in the world, but it suggests that God typically works through natural processes. This perspective respects the integrity of both divine action and the natural world. Critiques of theistic evolution come from both religious and scientific perspectives. Some religious critics argue that theistic evolution undermines the authority of sacred texts by interpreting them metaphorically rather than literally. However, proponents of theistic evolution argue that metaphorical interpretations can often capture deeper truths than literal readings. From a scientific standpoint, critics claim that theistic evolution introduces unnecessary supernatural elements into a naturalistic framework. Yet, theistic evolutionists contend that their perspective merely acknowledges the philosophical implications of scientific findings without distorting the science itself. Some critics also assume that theistic evolution diminishes the role of God to a mere watchmaker who sets the world in motion and then steps back. In contrast, theistic evolutionists believe that God is intimately involved in the process of evolution, guiding it towards a purposeful end. A final misunderstanding is that theistic evolution is an attempt to water down science to make it palatable for religious believers. This is a misrepresentation. Theistic evolution respects the robustness of scientific evidence while also acknowledging the profound metaphysical questions that science alone cannot answer. While critiques exist, theistic evolution continues to offer a compelling perspective on the harmony of faith and science. In our exploration of theistic evolution, we've seen how faith and science can coexist. We've defined theistic evolution, a perspective that marries religious belief with the evolutionary process, distinguishing it from atheistic evolution and young Earth creationism. We've delved into its theological foundations, demonstrating how it aligns with key biblical interpretations. We've examined the scientific evidence supporting evolution and discussed how theistic evolution interprets this data in a faith-based context. We've also addressed some common misconceptions and critiques, shedding light on how this perspective navigates the waters between religious and scientific viewpoints. This journey through theistic evolution underscores the value of exploring the relationship between faith and science. It's a fascinating, complex, and deeply personal endeavor that invites us to question, to reflect, and to grow in our understanding of the world and our place in it. As we continue to delve into the mysteries of our existence, may we remain open to the harmonious interplay of faith and science.